I almost said something.
Are we still going to have a hard-hitting question section?
No, I'm not going to do that.
Come for me.
The thing is, they're Kareem's hard-hitting questions. This is just like a bonus episode.
Yeah, fair.
I mean, because I wanted to do an episode with Robert, and also because we can't get the whole crew together.
I get it. I'm an afterthought.
Welcome to the Underground volume. I don't know what volume it is. Probably like 6. But anyway, we're here with our afterthought / friend / poet, Robert Torres.
Wow.
How are you, Robert?
I was doing a lot better a few seconds ago before you called me an afterthought.
You know, it's just, we got to be honest on this podcast.
It's a podcast. The whole point is lying.
Yeah. So, how's your persona these days?
They're doing fine. They're doing house shows again, which is exciting.
Yes. So, let's tell the people what kind of artist you are.
Hi, my name is Robert Torres. I'm a performance poet and general writer, performer combo. Just those two things. No triple threat.
Can you sing? Can you act?
I can do one of those things at a time.
Yeah. I've seen a couple of Robert's directed and acted in plays. That's how that works, right? That's how that sentence structure works.
What it is? What I saw a bunch of your shit, and that happened.
It was good, and it was there, and I was there. Anyway,
you could be too.
Also on today's podcast, we have Matt Valente.
And the crowd goes wild. Recurring guest.
Second time.
First recurring guest on the podcast?
First recurring guest, yes.
Woo!
Woo!
I'm going to insert some kind of...
Some big firsts here with the Underground.
Yeah. Matt, what do you do?
So, if you've listened to my past podcast with the Underground, you'll know that I am an artist as well. I mostly do a lot of like paintings and drawings and sculpture and stuff like that. But recently, I've gotten into the digital art scene, and specifically with the crypto craze, NFTs. NFTs. So probably I'll talk a little bit about NFTs today on the podcast. NFTs. What even are they?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. There is an
They're
SNL.
made up.
There's an SNL sketch about him.
Was Elon Musk in it?
No, he wasn't.
They didn't save that for the Elon Musk podcast or
No, they didn't.
show.
Would that have been too obvious for them? Nothing's too obvious for SNL. Who am I talking about?
Yeah, what the fuck is subtext? Fuck you. We're SN goddamn L. So, fucking A. Let's talk about revolutionary poetry, Robert. Tell us what that is and what you've been doing with it.
So for anybody who hasn't read it, there's a book called Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon that talks basically about how a colonized people can and inevitably will reassert themselves through violence over the colonizer. If that sounds shocking to you, you should read the fucking book. I read it a couple of years ago, and in it, there's a section that talks about like the role of culture in a revolution. And like, as someone who like likes to call myself like a revolutionary or whatever, but who really only spends most of their time doing art, I was like, that book like awakened a question that I think had been sleeping in me for a while about like how can art be revolutionary? Does it have to be, or is trying to make my art seem revolutionary just a bourgeois fantasy? So I've been like gnawing on that question over the last couple of years, and just last month or 2 months ago, I taught a class to high schoolers, and like I don't work with kids very often, so I was really nervous about like doing something interesting.
Right.
And their teacher, who's a friend of mine, was like, "Oh, like it'd be cool if you covered something I haven't covered." I was like, "I bet you haven't talked about the revolutionary potential of poetry with your high schoolers."
They skipped that unit.
Yeah. In bourgeois school, they would. But so I prepared this lesson that like quoted like Ho Chi Minh and Amado Guerrero of the Philippines, and leaned heavily on Poetry is Not a Luxury by Audre Lorde. And this isn't like my whole answer, but in that lesson, what I tried to convey was that poetry at its best can like rehumanize us or like encapsulate our human dignity. And that if we're leading a revolution that's for the people, anything that makes people see other people as human beings is inherently revolutionary.
Wow.
Which is a lot of jumps to make. And the lesson I had like an hour and like 10 minutes to do it. And so hopefully it was a little more coherent to them. But there's also like, but there's a lot of like other aspects, like how poetry can be revolutionary, just like being straight propaganda for the revolution, or like how like as someone who like creates and distribute poetry, like how am I like resisting or like undermining the economic base of the commodification of art? And also up against this wall of like, can poetry do all that? Or like, am I just clinging to this bourgeois aspiration of wanting to be a poet because would be awfully convenient if I could turn what I like to do and what I spend most of my time doing into a revolutionary activity, or if I just need to learn farming.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to know, like, oh, my contribution to this world is art, you know, like, I'm the chosen one, you know, like I have an interest in it. You hope you have a talent for it.
Yeah. I hope after all these many hours practicing it.
But it always feels kind of like a leap of faith in a lot of ways, where once you kind of have developed your art, really like showcasing it for people, there's like a little bit of narcissism there, no matter who you are, where
Definitely.
It's just like people need to see my art for some reason. You know?
That's true. Even like the straight propaganda pieces I've made that were just like flyers for actions, or you know, call scripts I've written for people to call their legislators about stuff. Like, like in me, I'm like, oh, like the whole coalition's using my flyer.
Yeah.
I'm a bad bitch. Like, but like, is that inevitable, or is that a symptom of like the commodification of art, or of just like the individualism of our culture?
Or is that even just part of the humans doing art? Like humans are like, I did this, someone liked it, now I'm proud about that.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get more people to do that, so I feel that way again.
Yeah.
Like if I get more people to see it and they give me compliments, then that means I did that for a reason, kind of, you know?
Definitely. I mean, you know, you can do it for yourself, but also like you wouldn't make it palatable if it was for yourself, or you wouldn't make it like interesting. You would just put down your own thoughts in a journal or something, maybe.
Yeah, art's not really like, you do art in your own style and it's like your own art, but you don't really do art for yourself. It's intrinsically for someone. Like there's like a viewer that you're intending it for a lot of the time.
I would argue against that. I'll just firstly, to speak from my own practice, a lot of my poetry is written as me either just like processing an invasive thought. So like only a third or a quarter of my poems ever see the light of day.
I guess that's a big difference between like poetry as an art, and I do mostly just all depictive art, like
Right.
like stuff that I want people to see, and it definitely like it has a meaning for me. Usually, I'm processing some kind of pain that I've gone through, and putting it on the canvas or putting it into a sculpture or something. But at the end of the day, I don't really necessarily like that intended process is not what I want to necessarily have a viewer see. My art is like you look at it, like you have to have people to look at it, otherwise it's just sitting somewhere.
So I was going to mention, like, because you know you need some reason to sustain your revolutionary activity, you know, and like just like any human relationship is a give and take, and so you know what's wrong with getting some kind of validation to keep going? You know, maybe that's fine. Maybe, and the thing is, most people I think in art don't think about it that way. They want money and they want adoration, but like, you know, I mean, they definitely want the validation for sure. But like, if you're thinking of terms of like, you know, people should just give me money. I don't know. It's like, is it okay, like, for you to get something out of it? I mean, it doesn't have to be an entirely selfless act, does it?
Yeah, I guess I never really think in terms of like selflessness because like I'm a revolutionary in or like I like want to believe in a revolution in part for selfish reasons.
Right.
Like I am
To improve your own life, because the one that is like there has to be some kind of change and revolution in what's happening now because life sucks.
Right.
Yeah, and like I
Things-
mostly do it for like people who are worse off than me, but like people
too.
like of my class would like benefit of like not because like one of the things that like drives me to like is that like I in terms of like econ jobs, like I've never had a job that like needed to exist. Like I've been like a bank teller or receptionist or I guess dishwashers are important, but like servers and restaurant hosts aren't. Like so most of the jobs I've had are just like they're basically just like babysitting me as a petty bee so that I have money to spend on commodities. Like I'm only employed so that people that like or like my class is only employed to keep people around to buy things.
Right.
And like I hate that. Like I would rather have because like I know Matt, like you're like a childcare worker, which is like a job that like needs to exist.
Yeah,
So-
somebody's got to teach the babies
Yeah.
like how to be people.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into that. And if you just let them to their own devices, they do some weird stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, obviously, and that's like so. I imagine like you're maybe like coming at it from like a different angle, or like it like feels different. But like to me, like
Yeah. And also, I'm definitely part of that working class paycheck too with the education field right now. So, like for me, I'd like to think that a revolution of some sort would provide a better standard of living across the board for people who are in the bottom tiers of making money.
yeah,
That's the goal, I suppose, right?
yeah, it's like so like people can like not work as hard and live better and not have like all of their effort directed towards making profit for like a small, very small fraction of humanity.
Especially because like the people at the lower echelons like myself and others, most of our money goes towards being alive. You have to spend time at the grocery store making sure you're not buying the wrong things, so that you don't.
Yeah.
Like it was like not enough food.
Yeah,
And like you said, I work a job that that has to get done. That's just not right. The people aren't making enough to make ends meet. Not even like enough money to like achieve their other goals that are not work and living related.
yeah, and that's like bring that back to like revolutionary poetry. I think one of if art is to serve a function, which is already a big assertion, but if art is to serve a function, I think one of the things that it can do, or like inevitably does when it's well made, is it reminds us like what we're revolting for. Like it reminds us like there's like better ways we could spend our time and that like we are capable of like imagining a more beautiful world.
Yeah.
More dehumanization, like that's it helps us feel human.
Right.
Like you ever come out of a movie that's like really beautiful and you're like, damn, I don't want to do any of my life right now. like
Yeah.
When you get out of a kung fu movie and you're like doing kung fu moves on the way to the car. You're just
oh yeah.
Man, I almost prepared my kung fu poem and I was like, no, I'll do a different one. God damn it.
You
This would have
know,
been a great segue.
yeah.
But if you want to read my kung fu poem, you can go to my Patreon.
I can't tell if this is a joke or not. Actually.
I do. No, I do. I literally have a poem. It mentions it's like one line. It's,
like
not about kung fu, but like it mentions like learning kung fu instead of. Anyway, I'm not going to spoil it because you can go to my
Everybody
Patreon.
was kung fu fighting.
That's the poem.
That's a poem, yeah. So, I mean, that is a good thing. That is the thing. Like, that's the way that we rationalize. I mean, I guess there are two types of evil, right? And also no evil, I guess. But we can talk about that later. But there are two types of evil. There's like the people that like to hurt people and don't, want to actively exploit them. And then the people who have been taught that you can dehumanize other people, or have been taught to like not see other people as humans. So, you devalue them. So like, that's the way that, the upper class can talk down to the lower class, or like, service workers, why they don't tip. They don't like, fuck these people kind of deal, and like, fuck bringing up the minimum wage and shit. It's like,
Well, it's also how like you have a whole shitload of liberals or like people who talk about like UBI or like universal health care for Americans. And it was like, where do you think America gets its fucking wealth?
right.
Like, do you understand there's like human beings beyond these borders, right? That like America's like living off the backs of.
I remember when 9/11 happened, it really affected me because I was watching just like fuck ton of like CBS News like for like the whole 2 days or the 24 hours it was on, you know? Mm-hmm. I don't know if I stayed up for 24 hours, but anyway, it was really like scary. And I was like, oh my God, the nation's under attack, you know? I was an anxious kid.
You grew up to be an anxious adult.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, no. I was also, I'm still an anxious kid deep down. But yeah, like the war in Iraq, when that started, or was it Afghanistan first? I forget.
Iraq was in 2003.
Yeah, it was like one right after the other either way.
Yeah.
I mean, so basically whenever the wars overseas started happening, like shock and awe and all that stuff, it was my first concept of like, you know, those other people over there. Like, it's like weird, like I understood it, but I was like, well, it's complicated because I was a kid. I didn't understand things. So I was like, I guess I trust the military, or I guess I trust the government. Like, it's not that fucked up, you know?
Do you want to hear a really dumb story from when I was like, it's not really a story. So during the during the 2000 election, I misunderstood something my grandmother said at the dinner table, and I thought what she said implied she was a Republican. So I decided I would be a Republican. So from the ages of like 10 to 13, I was like a Bush stan.
Nice.
And I remembered for a school project pulling an article from the fucking Washington Post. This is pre-Bezos, but it was still not great. Pulling an article from the Washington Post and basically saying in front of the class, like, hey, you know, Iraq broke the security agreement to not let investigators in. So, you know, we don't have a right. We have a responsibility to invade them. So little like, what was I? I guess 12.
It's good that, and it's also terrible that kids don't really have any power. People don't take them seriously, so you can make those mistakes. I mean, that's not like a good thing, but I guess we're lucky that that's how it happens.
I guess it was just creepy that I had access to like enough right-wing propaganda that I was able to parrot it at that age.
Right. I mean, Maya has a story. Maya, my partner, for those who don't know, has a story about how her parents were like, look at these candidates and, you know, which one do you like? And, you know, she didn't know anything about them. It was during the Bush and Gore election, I think. Mm-hmm. And she thought Bush was handsome. Hopefully I'm not telling tales out of school here, but she's like, Bush is handsome, so I like him. And I'm like...
I feel like that's a grave insult to you, her current partner.
Here's the thing. I'm from Texas. And I always thought Bush was a handsome man. And
George Bush, handsome.
Like he's not a bad looking dude.
Yeah, he's got like a nice jawline. He's got some good features, but also
he kind of looks.
Are y'all
like,
fucking tripping right now?
No,
he's like the clean cut version of the guy on the Mad Magazine.
He's Alfred.
He is Alfred P. Newman.
Alfred E. Newman. Yeah,
Alfred E. Newman. He looks just like him, but like if he was a politician.
Hey, what? Me worry.
I'm not on board, but okay.
I voted for his father in my preschool election.
I had
You couldn't have.
My grandparents are like raging Republicans. My grandparents, and
Yeah.
so when I was really young during the Bush Gore election, I think I was in like 3rd grade or something, and maybe even earlier. And I remember being like really young. I was like, oh, that guy looks like a carrot. That guy looks like a potato. I like carrots more than potatoes. I would vote for that guy. And so I'd vote for Al Gore. And because Bush looks more like a potato.
Yeah.
A little bit. But I told my grandparents that, and they were furious. They thought that the school was brainwashing us to be liberals and vote for Al Gore.
By feeding you carrots.
Yeah, it's like you didn't even listen to what I said. That was complete nonsense. Nobody brainwashed me to say that. That was all me.
I mean,
I'm fucking 8 and insane.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be a great way to actually like if kids could vote, you know, like, you know, just like people would be, they'd be like, hey, who likes, you know, you like potatoes? Stupid potatoes? Or do you like
Hey, little
carrots?
girls, isn't this man handsome?
Yeah.
Okay, we joke, but like, is there not elements of that still present, like chemically, like in the decisions people make to vote?
You hear about that thing in Florida where they ran a guy who just had the same last name as the opponent as an independent? and they stole like just enough votes for the Republican candidate to win. And they're being like investigated for campaign violations of some sort, because that guy wasn't even a politician. He literally was just some dude with the same last name. And then afterwards they bragged about it. They're like,
or did they just?
no,
like...
he did. He was in on it too.
Oh,
he was part of the whole thing.
Oh my gosh! What do you remember the name?
Oh God, I think it was like a Gonzalez. It was a Hispanic sounding last name.
Oh wow, that's funny. Talking about like electoral politics, like we believe in it.
I say I don't vote.
Yeah, I hear they're trying to get rid of that anyways.
The voting thing.
Yeah.
You know, they say if your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't be trying to take it from you.
They're not, are they?
What?
Well, you know, around where I'm from, and also across everywhere in this country and the world, they're doing that. Anyway, but yeah, let's talk about some better action, and that's the protests in Portland. Like, Robert, you live somewhere in Portland. I don't want to give your address away. I don't want to blow your cover.
Are they still doing the daily protests, or?
No. The
Okay.
daily protests fizzled out around, I want to say September, October, when it started getting cold in Portland and like untenable to be out.
That makes sense.
There's been like a handful of actions, like every the anniversaries of like the deaths. So like for George Floyd, or for a local one, Patrick Kimmons, I think is coming up in like this next week as the anniversary. I don't know if it's the anniversary of his killing or his birthday. But so like at each of like because there have been so many people killed, there's like a lot of like red dates that people still gather for.
That makes sense.
Good.
I mean, yeah, no, it's died down here.
We just hit the 1 year anniversary of the first person who was killed during the protests here.
Oh, Heather Hare.
No, that was back in like North Carolina.
Yeah, that was somewhere else.
Oh, that was in Seattle. I'm sorry.
Heather Hare was like 2015 or something.
No, it was after Trump had won the election, because it was those crazy alt-right dudes with
Was it Charleston?
the torches. It was in Charleston, where someone got hit by a car. But no, this happened like a year ago after CHOP had popped up, and everyone was like kind of tenting out in the park here. But there was some sort of altercation at night, and someone ended up getting shot, I believe. And that was the first person who died. I think there was like 5 people total killed during the Seattle protests.
Yeah,
That is a lot more than Portland.
and
Yeah.
that's not
It got weirdly violent here. It really did.
that's not even counting the people that died in like the shooting at CHOP, right? Like,
Well, no, that was one of the shootings at CHOP.
oh, okay,
Was
like
that one. And then there was that person who like ran their car and started just shooting at people.
Oh,
right
yeah.
at the front lines there.
yeah, and it was like, yeah, I remember
It
reading
was a
the.
long ass year last year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean,
It's just
for
crazy that we're just getting to some of the 1 year anniversaries of it, because it feels like it was such a long time ago.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, that year fucking sucked.
It really did.
I want to go on record as saying fuck 2020. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what? That's the most 2020 thing I've ever said on this podcast.
Did we even do the podcast in 2020? I think we took a whole year long break.
I should have put one out on Halloween, but I'm lazy. But yeah, it's coming back.
It's coming back.
Right
right here, right now.
But anyway, enough about the fucking podcast. Let's not get meta. Robert, do you want to talk on mic about some of the things that you did, some of the actions you took, like some of the jobs you had?
So I was involved before the killing of George Floyd. I was involved in like the rent strike efforts in Portland. So that started in like March of last year, when like my friends put me up to stealing the mic from the mayor at a press conference.
Nice.
We'll put a link to that video. I'm pretty sure it's still up.
I look really good in that video, just saying.
They look amazing.
Like we said, I just got my hair done. This is totally fucking irrelevant.
We're gonna leave this. Like, by the way, there's no irony in what Robert's saying right now. They really do believe it. I mean, the fucked up part is it's true. Well, it's not really fucked up, but the thing about it is it's true. It was a really nice outfit and some good makeup.
I stole the mic from the mayor at a press conference and was like, "Hey, fuck your eviction moratorium. Like, cancel rent." Or I think our rhetoric at the time was rent freeze, before they co-opted that language to mean where you don't have to pay rent right now. But one of the things that the city or state did that our efforts, I think, failed to respond to is they basically separated folks within the rent strike effort didn't want to align ourselves with the mortgage freeze efforts because we at the time they were like, hey, fuck them, they're like of an upper class than us, like we should really be focusing on rent strike. And like what happened was that the people who were asking for the mortgage freeze, a lot of them were landlords, but a lot of them just like had enough money to like, or like they just won. So like what just happened this month was the mortgage freeze got extended, but the eviction freeze didn't.
People were still mostly paying rent then, huh? But they froze the mortgages.
So it's basically like so for a mortgage, like you already have this lump. It kind of goes back to like why a rent is more exploitive than a mortgage.
Yeah.
Which a lot of y'all know, but I'll break it down. Mortgage, like you have this lump sum you have to pay. So what the mortgage freeze means is that like for the people who have a mortgage, they have like an interest-free year that they're not paying. They don't have to pay their mortgage, and then after it ends, they'll have to pay their mortgage, and so they'll start accruing interest again. So like it costs them nothing to not have to pay their mortgage, which is cool. That's a good thing that people deserve who are trying to buy a house.
Right.
But then during all of that, a lot of those people are still charging rent.
Right. And for renters...
The bastards.
Yeah. And for renters are accruing monthly rents that they eventually have to pay back.
Oh, so it's putting them in debt.
Right.
Well, the landlord is actually just giving... They're like, hey, it's rough right now. You don't have to pay that.
Right now.
The bastards.
Because somehow, after a year of being unemployed from COVID, you'll suddenly have a job that pays 1.5 times what you were making pre-COVID to be able to pay for 1.5 of your rent for a year and a half. Which, like, it takes pretty simple math to see that's fucking demented.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of this math, it was like easy to predict. Like all of this stuff in March last year when the pandemic started going into place. Anyone paying attention is like, oh man, those numbers don't add up. Most Americans are going to be struggling in about a year. And here we are like a year and some change later, and most Americans are struggling.
Yeah, and it's like...
badly.
Yeah, I think it's like something like a third or a quarter of American renters are facing eviction as soon as the eviction moratoriums dry up. Like, I don't know what happens when you threaten that many people with eviction. Mm-hmm. And not to be like, I don't want to sound accelerationist, but like the energy that drove like this string and sustained protests last summer was that a lot of people were out of work and had the time and energy to be able to like protest their conditions. But like also I think people like see police violence as kind of like the tip of the iceberg of this fucked up system.
Right.
And like as conditions get worse for more people, like more people are going to be like, hey, like voting isn't working, or like we can't vote our way out of this fast enough for us to actually survive.
Yeah, I see what you mean by accelerationist.
Yeah, but like accelerationism like would argue that like, oh, like we should like let things get worse so that more people
like,
could actually
vote for the worst option so that people come to their senses quicker.
Yeah, like it's not accelerationist to say that like people see their conditions getting worse and more like
right.
Things are accelerating whether or not you yourself are trying to make it accelerate.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like we're on course and we're only able to move that steering wheel a little bit to the left or maybe a little bit more to the right than to the left. But we can't steer out of the way of what's coming.
Right, exactly.
With the system that's in place.
Yeah.
And we've crossed the threshold, though, I think, maybe last year with the two things happening at once, being the BLM protest and the killings that happened that year, as well as like COVID and the government handling that like shit. Not
almost intentionally badly, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't just me. That seemed like they were like really actually trying to hurt people.
Yeah.
With some of the advice they were giving.
Yeah.
Like, oh, take this untested hack drug that I'm going to just shill because I'm the president. Like, what the fuck was that?
Or like the whole bullshit about like, oh, COVID is only droplet borne. It's not airborne, so you don't have to. And then you have like...
Also, didn't that guy never wear a mask until he caught COVID?
Which guy?
The former president.
Barack Obama.
No, not that guy.
Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Lyndon Bird Johnson.
Lyndon Bird.
Lady Baines Johnson. No, Donald Trump. He didn't wear a mask.
Right.
The whole.
Well, actually, he didn't. He actually wore it before he got it. But there were just so many. And
Then why did he get it?
because he's a fucking idiot. But at first he didn't take it seriously, and then he didn't let on that he was starting to take it because he's a germaphobe, is the rumor.
Yeah.
And he didn't tell people that in the White House there was like a strict, like, you have to wear gloves and masks when you're around him in the West Wing. And so, he obviously took it very seriously, but most of the people around him didn't. And I think that maybe he got it from like Herman Cain.
Well, yeah, but that even
Wasn't
just...
Herman Cain dead by then?
He died of coronavirus.
He died of coronavirus, yeah.
Yeah, that he allegedly got at one of the Trump rallies.
Oh, wow.
And of course they hung out.
Yeah.
Godfather's Pizzas.
555.
Yeah, 555.
I believe it was the Pokemon Mewtwo.
Literally that.
Rest in peace, Herman Cain. But I heard he did a lot of really kind of shitty things. Wasn't he involved in a lot of sex scandals and...
Yeah, he was predatory towards his employees.
Yeah.
Don't rock me like a Herman Cain.
Oh, God.
Is it too late to delete the podcast and leave?
Let's just end the fucking podcast. So, goodbye to the underground.
Here I am. Bum, 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 bum. Rock me like a Herman Cain.
I regret everything. But
Well,
yeah.
I guess if the podcast is already off the rails, now I get to start plugging my NFTs.
So let's talk about the NFTs. And now it's my decision.
Oh, wait. I want to do a question and answer session because I don't really know that much yet. But I'm trying to sell some of my artwork as a non-fungible token.
Cool. What the fuck is that?
NFTs. So a non-fungible token, to the best of my knowledge so far, it's a crypto asset where basically you can create like a work of art, but I guess it's by its nature it is art, and then you sell it on an online community for cryptocurrency. Basically, what it is.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Can you trade it directly for drugs?
I mean, you could like force someone to purchase one of your NFTs instead of giving you money while you were selling them drugs, but I don't think that would be very commonplace or easily accessible.
So you're saying I couldn't give you drugs for your art?
Yeah.
Let's keep that one off the record.
You would have to
Into a microphone.
Well, no, this is a hypothetical. I don't
have drugs.
Yeah, and I don't have any art to give you for drugs.
Yeah.
But no, but if it's an NFT, that wouldn't be an accepted currency. You'd have to use some kind of cryptocurrency to actually purchase the NFT.
Okay.
You could probably find a cryptocurrency called drugs. We could look that up later. I bet there's a coin that's just called drugs.
Jimmy, do you look that up?
It's Jamie.
Johnny.
I don't give a fuck.
Colbert has Jim. Jim?
Jim. Jimmy.
It's actually Jim from The Office.
Really?
No. No, okay, so how is it like different from Bitcoin though? Like they're both on a blockchain, is that right?
So you could sell like one of these pieces of art for a Bitcoin. But there's only one of this piece of art that exists. So once you upload it on there, it's just like somebody is purchasing a piece of your art. But they don't actually get the piece of art from you. Like you're not mailing it to them. They don't have anything to put on their wall, really.
Like what's exclusive about it? What do you own? What can people like not take away from you if you own?
So once you have the NFT from another artist, then you own that NFT, and then you could sell it again. It's basically or you could keep it. You're just like, I like this artist. I want to make a donation to him, so I'm going to purchase something that he made. Now it's in my wallet.
Interesting.
Yeah, and for me, I sell art every now and then from my like actual art. Mm-hmm. But I can pretty much only do that for people that I know, you know? Like I can only reach people within my own little circle who know that I'm an artist and who would like to commission something from me or have seen my art and they like it. Mm-hmm. But with this, you kind of just put it out there for anybody who's interested in this sort. It like provides a new like stream for getting your art out there.
So basically, it signals to people that your art is like it highlights the fact that your art is a commodity.
Yeah, that I'm not just making art, but I'm selling art. Like it for me, it's just a marketplace. Like it's, and you can put things there that you couldn't put in like a regular gallery. You know,
pictures of little birds jumping over little hurdles.
Yeah, you couldn't like. How are you gonna put that in a frame if you've got like a little animated?
You have like a lithograph, or like, or not lithograph. What's that thing called? Where it has like it's like a little like plastic strips, and you like turn it.
Oh
and
yeah,
it shows,
like
different like sections of the
the billboards where they've got 3 different ads.
No, not those. The I forget what they're called, but it's like they used to like in like toys and stuff. You'll have like the plastic slats in front of a picture.
Oh yeah,
and, like, you can see like 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, but that's just
frames.
like I mean I guess the whole NFT thing's a little gimmicky too.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's a way for you to showcase some of those gimmicky things without having to handcraft them out of physical materials.
See, that's a bummer to me. I love the idea of like having to handcraft them.
Well, if I'm sure people can artists could still do that.
Yeah,
this isn't
that's not going
stopping
away.
anyone from handcrafting other things. It's just providing this other new medium for like actually because people have been creating digital art since they made Microsoft Paint for the first like people have been interested in
Probably
making these
slightly
things.
before then, but
Probably.
only slightly.
I mean, they've been making digital art with their hands and their digits, their fingers.
But it's never been possible to like you can buy a print of a digital artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so you still like technically own the intellectual property of your art that you sold, right?
So what I'm trying to do right now with my project is I'm making a pixel art tarot deck.
Oh, right.
And so
yes, I've seen some of these. They're
technically,
amazing.
some of us or all of us own the intellectual property rights of the Rider White tarot deck because it's in the public domain. So that's all of our art. And I'm basically just uploading that in a format so that people can like so that piece of art exists now in this blockchain environment.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely a market that's super cornered by big money interests.
Yeah.
Like it's mostly
It's really made for money laundering.
yeah, it's very easily that was the whole point of it when they first came up with this was like, oh, I got all this illegal money. Well, let me buy something that doesn't even exist with it and then sell this thing back to myself. Now that money was used in this purchase and it increased in value unexpectedly. You know, that just probably what's happening to a lot of these because some of these have sold for over $7 million.
Yeah, I mean it's the same as like the physical art market, except now they don't have to even pretend or like send somebody to a gallery or auction. They can just do it all online or have their secretaries do it online.
I want to like see what's the most money and the least effort.
What people have been like popular meme people, like people whose faces were used in memes back in the day. They have sold the original meme that they were in as an NFT for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like that girl in the was it overly attached girlfriend meme?
Who actually went to the same college or university as Robert?
Oh wow.
Oh really?
Yeah, she, our mutual friend Darian told me that she goes to UNT.
Huh. But yeah, she made like $600,000 or something like that just selling like a blockchain version of the original meme.
Y'all remember Charlie Bit My Finger?
Oh yeah, he made money too, right?
So the I don't know if it's Charlie or the person that posted the video, maybe the father or parent. I haven't seen it in a long time. Maybe it was the person who got bit by Charlie. I'm not sure which one of them got the money, but they pulled the video off YouTube after they sold the NFT.
Wow, weird.
Yeah, I mean that's like an interesting now it's like only that person can reliably watch that video. I mean you can still find it. It's not
and like pushing the boundaries of what even is art. Jack Dorsey sold his first tweet
Oh yeah.
as an NFT. Is that even art?
I find the question, what is art, profoundly boring.
Yeah,
And I want to steer us away from that because I don't give a fuck.
that's fair.
I mean that's literally an entire class I'm taking right now in college and just
Yeah.
fucking it's like shut the fuck up. Like
Because like that whole question, like the need to draw a line around what is art exists because of the commodification of art.
Well, it's also just such an abstract word.
It's just it's
It
stupid.
means so many
I mean,
different
the
things.
thing
to
is
so
for-
many different people.
the thing is for me they're trying to make sure that the students that go through this unnamed college in Boston
The rhymes with the senator in Oregon.
Mercury?
That's obscure.
Yeah.
That's obscure enough. No one's gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one knows anything about the Oregon State Legislature. Certainly not me, who does political work in Oregon.
I hope this gets to the state legislature themselves. What were we talking about?
Take that, Tina Kotek.
Oh, what is art and how we're steering the conversation.
Oh, right. So the reason
While also answering it.
Well, no, I don't. We're just talking shit on it now. They want to make sure that students that come out of Berkeley have like a base idea of what like, the reasons for doing art, right? Like you don't want to become a songwriter and like, or want somebody to come out of there being a songwriter, not knowing like the types of art there are, or like the bullshit things you have to say, like about like, I mean, it's kind of media training at that, where you're like, I really write it for myself, but
like you're learning to like write artist statements so you can sell yourself to money launderers.
Literally, that's one of the assignments, and like it's my final assignment actually, to write an artist statement. And
please let me write it for you.
Oh my god,
that's unethical.
It's Berkeley. How ethical could it be?
It's fine. I'll money launder it to you.
NFT.
I'll write your artist statement as an NFT.
I was gonna say, let's
sell it to you, and then you sell it to your school at a higher value, and everybody wins except the environment.
I had an idea of something. We could come up with ideas for like what could be an NFT, And the first thing that came to my mind is that speech that Barack Obama gave where he said, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. He said him, I think, but fuck that. But but I think that would be like, or like, can you buy like FDR's like, there's nothing to fear but fear yourself speech or something?
But it's like, you could put that up there, but not necessarily someone's going to buy it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the big problem that a lot of these artists in this space are facing right now, is that they're like, oh, someone sold this stupid thing as art. I'm going to sell any stupid thing I think of as art. Right. And then like a month later, like nobody bought any of my stuff. This whole thing's stupid.
Yeah, it's just like it's the whole, like you can make a meme and he's like, oh, I see 1,000 stupid memes a day. It's like, yeah, but 1 million stupid memes get made each day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like create a meme about you selling a recording of FDR's "I Have a Dream" speech.
As an NFT, and then sell that as an NFT.
That's MLK.
That I think
FDR is nothing to fear.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have brain disease.
And the former mayor of San Francisco, Harvey MLK.
And then childhood Lando was, I fear my dreams. Because he had anxiety. A throwback.
Throwback, indeed. Do y'all think that some of the stupid memes that sell for like millions of dollars, do you think they're like usually just people laundering money, or like maybe investors that like have a lot of money? Maybe it's going to be worth something. Maybe they actually think it's going to be worth something. Or do you think like somebody's like, oh my gosh, I saved up for this fucking meme?
I don't think anyone's saved up for NFTs because they've pretty much just come out. More than likely, it's people who are invested in making NFTs a thing. Is like the people who are actually making these platforms and like involved with cryptocurrency, have tons of Ethereum, tons of like stuff that they got hella cheap. And now they're like, if we make this super popular,
right,
everyday people might be more interested in crypto. And so they're just
so it's like, market manipulation.
I'm going to pay. Yeah, it's market manipulation. It's trying to make news stories so that will affect market outcomes.
So you make a meme about daring an NFT investor to buy your recording of FDR's speech.
I mean,
yeah.
Then his rival does it and then goads him into buying it back from him. That's how you manipulate the market, baby.
But part of that, you're like, but we're only doing this because you wanted to buy some drugs off me, and this is one of the stipulations.
I guess that's one thing, like the band NoFX, who I have a love-hate relationship with.
Mostly love, let's be real.
Let's be real. I have the ADHD, as I've mentioned 3 times on this podcast, and I love things that are fast.
Do you have ADHD?
No, I have ADHD.
He's got ad lab.
Ad lab.
That's attention deficit. Look, a bike.
No, but NoFX put demos of some of their popular songs on, whatever, what's it called? OpenSea? Yeah.
OpenSea, yeah. That's the main place where people are buying NFTs.
Yeah, and they put them up on there, and I was like, oh, I might like to buy one. I don't know how much they cost. They haven't been they hadn't been released at the time, and I was like, oh damn, so many collectors. Like I'm gonna lose out on the chance to buy these. I'm like, No, I'm not. Like, no one's probably gonna buy it unless
Well, and then the thing is, once someone buys it, more than likely they've already put it up for sale. Unless they're holding, like they really wanted it. This is mine. So you don't really miss out on the chance to buy it from the original artist.
Right.
But then if you still want that, more than likely you can still be the owner. You just have to pay the current owner.
I see. That's so. What's the worst thing you've ever said and also would sell as an NFT? Like a clip, an audio clip of you saying the worst thing you ever said.
Oh no.
That you would also put out in the world. You're like,
Are you just fishing for our dark secrets right now?
I'm a real good interviewer. I don't know if you know that.
I'm just trying to think of, like, what's the equivalent of selling your bathwater via NFT? And I guess it would be like like some kind of like ASMR fantasy over like me peeling a banana right next to your ear.
I mean, maybe like since
Maybe there will be some weird crossover between like OnlyFans and NFTs.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
That's
where
what
like people are purchasing just like one of a kind pieces of sexual artwork.
Yeah, well, that's what I think the idea behind Cum Rocket is.
Yes, Cum Rocket for you listeners at home.
I read the whole Cum Rocket page.
Don't explain it
because I can't. I did not understand it, but somehow they're using it to like try to fund NFTs or like drive NFTs like for like the like adult entertainment industry as they call it on their website.
It's not like poorly drawn pixel boobies, right?
I hope it is. I hope every Cum Rocket comes with a unique bad drawing of titties.
So what do y'all think that, or do you think there'll be any like political consequences from this? Like, what happens after the revolution? Whatever the fuck that means.
Like, will
NFTs
this still exist?
Will be one of the things to go.
Yeah, NFTs get the bullet too.
NFTs are up against the wall.
Yeah, hopefully we won't need to sell art after the revolution. We will be working in art projects with each other because it's fun to do art.
Well, like immediately after the revolution, we're going to be doing a lot of like industrial jobs to make sure everybody is like fed and clothed.
Yeah, we're going to do a lot of running and huddling.
During the revolution, there'll be a lot of ducking and hiding in basements.
I mean, if it's like a fraction of what January 6th was like, that's the day that I had a revolution.
So it'll be a lot of angry Facebook posting and head shaking.
But yeah, like post-rev, like there won't... I cannot foresee a reason that we would need like crypto because like financialization is like a outcome of imperialism, and if we're like waging a revolution to undo imperialism, then like by extension we would be undoing financialization.
Right. I mean, the world would still be in a capitalist system, supposing we did it here, and that also
that's true.
Yeah, I mean,
Soviet commies.
I mean,
that seems to be actually one of the biggest problems with a lot of these left-wing movements in history is that they're usually the only one at the time who's done it, and the rest of the world is like, oh, gotta get rid of that one.
Yeah.
And then they all kind of team up on them and pop them out.
Yeah.
Go back to the status quo where like 10 dudes own everything.
Yeah, that's a hurdle because it's like how do you, because like your new socialist country has to like survive in a capitalist world.
Yeah.
I mean, Cuba's doing okay.
They
were also like the USSR sugar bowl for like 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't diversify their economy until the 90s.
And they spent a long time becoming self-sufficient as an island community.
Yeah.
Before imperialists got there. Well, I mean, not before, but like in that period where they were getting rid of the imperialists.
Yeah.
And then the U.S. kind of sort of fucked that up, huh?
Yeah.
Because we like made them a protectorate or whatever.
I forget what Cuba was. I think Cuba was just a territory. I don't know.
I think Puerto Rico is.
Puerto Rico was a territory. Cuba almost became a U.S. territory, but instead we settled for we will corruptly manipulate your government.
Oh, it was never like directly like quote unquote.
No, I don't think we ever owned any of Cuba.
It was more like a Philippines.
Yeah, we got
like
the Philippines,
post
Puerto Rico,
46.
like Guam, some islands. We like bought Florida, I think. Bad trade. Worst trade in history. We should have gave it back.
No. Let's not pretend like Florida isn't just a microcosm of the entire country. Like it's concentrated America. It's like when you eat too much sugar, you maybe get like a whitehead on your face. That's our Florida right there. You got a little Florida hanging off the side of you.
I can't remember the last time I heard good news out of Florida.
Marco Rubio has a nice tie on.
No. Terrible
Did you know Florida is actually the flattest state? Flatter than Kansas.
Well, pretty soon it's going to be the only state mostly underwater. So.
Not financially, am I right?
Also.
Probably also.
Not the only one.
Maybe that's why Florida is so terrible. It's like a pump and dump scam.
Yeah.
It's like they know that Florida's not long for this world. So they're just squeezing
how can we launder as much money as we can through Florida.
What can we squeeze out of this place before it ends up underneath the ocean?
Speaking of places in the ocean, Robert, you've been doing some work around things that are going on in the Philippines. What's that been like? What's it about?
Yeah, so I organized with the Portland Committee for Human Rights in the Philippines. So like the elevator pitch is as to like why I do Philippines work is basically the Philippines is a neo-colony of the United States, and like their fascist dictator Duterte has like they're responsible for the deaths of like 30,000 people and counting. Through his drug war, through attacks on activists. So they've been like escalating fascism, like both before him, but especially during his presidency. And the big thing is that like he does it with a lot of like U.S. money. And like to protect U.S. interests, like in like the Philippines and Southeast Asia.
Yeah, there's like a big push for the U.S. to have the Philippines as like a pro-U.S. theater against China.
I mean, they already are in a large extent.
But Duterte is always kind of like hanging that like, oh, I might be friends with China now, though, kind of over the U.S. to leverage more money.
I mean, didn't Trump just adore Duterte?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think Duterte actually interacted with Trump very much, though.
It's surprisingly little. I was surprised.
Like,
but, like
Trump
there was
said
the whole
good things about him, and Duterte kind of gave him the cold shoulder.
Yeah, well, like the big thing was so during the Trump administration, like the U.S. gave the Philippines like $500 million in security aid.
Wow.
And like Duterte, like you were saying, to like twist their arm to get even more, was like, oh, I'm going to get rid of the visiting forces agreement and I'm going to stop letting the U.S. use the Philippines bases for essentially free, unless you give me like even more.
Right.
But anyway, yeah. So like I do organizing with them. So like right now, the big push is the Philippine Human Rights Act was just reintroduced by Susan Wild in the House. And that would cut U.S. security aid to the Philippines until the Philippines like conducts like a review of like their human rights abuses.
Right, and like, I mean, you were talking about how fascism is being accelerated. One of the ways that's shown up is in the killing of like drug dealers and drug users.
So yeah, so especially from like 2016 to like 2019, I think the figure was like 30,000 people dead. But what that really comes down to is just like attacks on the urban poor. Right. So like, because so basically like the Philippines is like semi-feudal. Like it's semi-colonial, semi-feudal, like under the thumb of U.S. imperialism.
Very corrupt state.
Phrase to use like bureaucrat capitalism. It's like so like you have like U.S. imperialism is like from the outside. Then you have like bureaucrat capitalism, which like articulates like modern feudalism to U.S. imperialism,
like oligarchy.
Yeah,
like
something
a few
that's like
people who are in charge.
Something like 5 families or like very fucking I forget.
But they all have like their own territory, kind of.
Yeah, and like intermixing of like political families, comprador bourgeoisie, and landlords. You'll see like the same, like
literally a
family.
neo feudalism.
I mean, I wouldn't even call it neo. It's directly descended from like colonial feudalism. It's just that system of feudalism articulated to imperialism.
I just mean like in 2021 though.
Well, yeah.
Which just feels so anachronistic in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah, but it's purposefully done to keep the Philippines from being self-sufficient and industrializing. They're kept backwards by U.S. forces to save money on fucking rice and nickel and other like metals that are being farmed in the Philippines.
Yeah.
What was the question?
Well, the question was explain what I was asking you to explain what was going on, but also what the fuck are you doing about it?
So one of the things that PCHRP is doing is helping push the PHRA, the Philippine Human Rights Act, because that'll basically give the people in the Philippines a leg to stand on. Stop this like neoliberal like project of like the U.S. investing in the Philippines and then the Philippines government flipping that and just buying like weapons to attack activists who are just asking for like national democratic change.
Right. And so, if you're someone listening to this hearing this news for the first time, which unfortunately a lot of people are going to hear this for the first time on this podcast, what can they do about it?
So write to your congressperson, which is legislative work is not super glamorous, but like write to your House representative wherever you live and tell them like, hey, like I give a shit about the people in the Philippines and I don't want to be culpable in their murders. Support the Philippine Human Rights Act.
So we'll be putting a script for those phone calls, for those letters in the description. You've done some actions around things that are going on in the Philippines. I'm going to keep referring to it as that.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of, especially in summer coming up, we have a couple of red dates, or what we call red dates. One is Filipino-American Friendship Day, which is basically in the Philippines. It's used for pro-U.S. propaganda. So the Philippine state is like, hey, look what a great friend the U.S. has been to us. You should like learn English in school and grow up to be a nurse in the U.S.
Right.
Where they have like died in mass by COVID.
Wasn't that like the bloodiest U.S. war was the Philippine insurrection or something? Like, we were terrible to the Philippines. When we
are terrible to the Philippines.
We still are, and at least they're kind of independent now, but...
Yeah, it's a sham though.
Yeah,
like, we still
is.
like control their economy since '46, and like it was set up that way before they were given their so-called independence. Like make sure the U.S. basically the U.S. did that so that they could control their economy without having to like let them vote.
It's like they're like a shell corporation of America.
Essentially, yeah. I always think of it as the U.S. has like export concept of like in Maoism of surrounding the city by the countryside. I think one of like the greatest counterinsurgency tactics of the U.S. was to export its countryside to other countries.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true in a lot of ways.
Yeah, like so much of like...
It's like our countryside, most of the stuff that we make barely goes to Americans. We'll sell it to other people. We'll like make like luxury items.
Yeah.
And
that they can't make other places. But then the stuff that we need to survive, we import it from other places a lot of the time.
And that's like the biggest industry there is, probably, like imports, exports. Like, I mean, not even just like Amazon, but like the Suez Canal, shit like that.
Yeah.
What do you import? Staples.
What do you export?
Iron. Where do you export it? The Staple Factory. But yeah, so the Philadelphia Friendship Day is coming up, and then there's what we call the People State of the Nation. So much like in the U.S., the president stands up and like spits a bunch of bullshit about how great the country's going and what he's going to do to make it even better. Duterte in July is gonna, I forget the exact date, but we can put it in the description.
Definitely.
Thanks, Post. The Philippine State of the Nation, there's like a string of protests called the People State of the Nation, where like Filipino people and their allies like take the streets both in the Philippines and internationally to protest.
Right.
Like in 2019, I traveled to D.C. to protest in front of the Philippines consulate and embassy are across the street from each other.
Right.
In D.C. So we like went to like protest on that block. That same year, there was like a huge banner drop in San Francisco, which I think is the nearest consulate to Seattle. I think it's the only one on the West Coast.
Right.
They might I don't think they have one here. I should know that because I live only 3 hours away. But
we'll put a list of all the consulates to each country in the description.
yeah, for all your protesting pleasure. But so yeah, in terms of like direct action, that's like the big red dates for us as PCHIRP and our allies to like show up to the consulate and embassy like, alongside Filipinos and Filipino Americans and say like, hey, we don't want to be culpable in the murder of the fascism in the Philippines. And by fighting against fascism in the Philippines, we're also fighting against the U.S. imperialism at large,
Right.
which in terms like is a step towards our own freedom.
Absolutely. Well, that's great. We'll put links to that shit in the description.
Hell yeah.
Links to those things, links to those important actions that you can take. Robert, so your main art, you could say, the thing you excel at the most is poetry. And so
I was going to suck and dick, but okay.
that's a close second. No, I mean, it's not that your dick sucking is bad. It's just your poetry is that good.
Oh, that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me in our 10 years of friendship.
So what's it like being a fucking YouTuber? Hey guys.
Hey, I have a YouTube of my poems. It's fun.
What
I've learned a lot of video editing, which has actually been the coolest part. Is like actually learning Premiere Pro and After Effects to a lesser degree.
Definitely programs you legally acquired.
I mean, yeah.
If I wanted to find these videos, what's the best thing to type into YouTube?
Robert Torres.
Robert
poetry.
Torres poetry. Cool.
I don't have. I should have a snappy title. My Patreon's easier to find. Just saying.
What's your Patreon?
Gay space communism will win.
Patreon.com/
Gay space communism will win.
Patreon.com/
Gay space communism will win.
Yeah.
So, what are your videos like on YouTube? Can you describe them a little bit?
So there's a mix of me do live sets that I've cut, or only right now one live set I've cut into pieces. There's also some that are like abstractions. There's me just chanting stuff and drawing. There's more music video like ones. There's ones that are me like talking head in front of a reciprocating TV screen.
Right.
So yeah, there's a wonderland of poetry driven videos.
It's a very cool effect, that mirror effect.
Yeah.
And so I've seen, I've been watching you do poetry for around 10 years.
Mm.
And you really did bring the spirit of what I wish at the time I could show people who didn't go to your shows, the performance part of it. It's just, it really, really complements it. And so I've enjoyed your videos. People need to check that shit out. Go check out the Patreon, donate what you can. But you're not fucking donating, you're buying.
You're buying my non-NFT art. If you want to protest the grotesque world of NFTs.
See, we're playing both sides.
Hey,
Here.
direct.
Purchase one of my tarot cards.
Matt, where do we find your tarot cards?
Oh, they're so hard to find, actually. That's one of the things that's kind of annoying about the NFT market. Is
There's not like a link you can send people to like look at them.
you can, but you have to have a crypto wallet already. So you kind of have to be already involved in the crypto scene to be interacting with these. But you go to OpenSea.io, and then I'd have to like send a link to it. But we can post that link in the
description. Yeah,
the description.
It's
It's
gonna be a long description.
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean
Nobody's watching these anyways,
Yeah, I mean this is
except for you, whoever you are,
Thanks.
wherever you are.
Bless you.
Kareem.
It's just Kareem, not even like the other hosts of this podcast.
I've hosted 2 podcasts that I've never listened to an episode of. So.
I listen to my episode of this podcast every night before bed.
While masturbating.
I love it so much. You should give it a listen. I think it's called The Spiral.
It's called The Spiral. Yeah, I mean Matt does a lot of if you listen to the old episode.
Spiraling, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing I'm most excited about art-wise this upcoming year is getting back into doing live art.
Oh, fuck
Yeah, out of 2020, I know poetry, that's probably like your bread and butter.
Yeah, so we just started doing house shows at my house in Portland, which I don't know. Y'all are in Seattle mostly, so no give a shit. But we did a live show last month, and I've done like a handful of like live show or like online shows, like with Lando, a couple of, and then a couple as like fundraisers, or just like we did like one where like all the artists were at the house, but we were broadcasting to live, and the point being, it fucking sucked. Like like online shows fucking suck. Like there is no fun as a performer. I'd rather do it alone in my house and not have to worry about the fucking technology.
And then even as a viewer, I feel like I've got the attention span of a goldfish when it comes to watching people. Like even artists,
you have the whole other internet that you're also looking at.
And then a lot of these like streaming services, they make you kind of like just watch that one thing, and eventually you're just like, I gotta look at a different screen.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we did our live streams on Facebook.
Yeah, so just like whoever's like scrolling by, other than like 5 like trusted friends who are just like really excited to see us, which is awesome that we have that at all. But like when I recite, I'm used to hearing people like laugh or gasp, or like I'm from Texas or on the East Coast, so I'm used to heckling or like being heckled a little bit, and like getting nothing of that from online. It's just like, this isn't fun.
And when they try to do an audience, it's fucked up. It's terrible. You can't, like, I watched the comedian Maria Bamford do a live stream with like where you could hear the people on the call. So like it was like supposed to be like an audience, but you just could not fucking hear her over the laughter.
Something like that with the NBA finals last year. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Where they had like a wall of faces of people watching via Zoom, and they were all like cheering and laughing and doing like, and you could hear them.
Also, Barack Obama was in there.
He was in there. I remember that.
my roommate was
so was Marco Rubio.
Oh God!
Wait, no, that's that one coach.
Call that.
Sorry, we have an inside joke that Eric Spoelstra looks like Marco Rubio, and that they're the same guy, the coach of the Miami Heat.
Thank you, the 2 listeners that got that joke.
Okay.
Yeah, my roommate was telling me that there's a venue in Portland that was trying to develop a system, it even seems like a big word for it, but like a thing that like when you finish the song, it would like automatically play like a laugh track back to you or like an applause track back to you, so you could like get your timing right or like get used to, and it was just like, what the fuck.
Right, it's a lot like Bo Burnham's special. Bo Burnham had a laugh track in his in one of his songs on his last Netflix special, which was filmed inside, and it's called Bo Burnham.
They should add a laugh track function to Facebook.
That would be great.
Like if someone posts something spicy, you can click the woo.
just pure sitcom.
Yeah, exactly. All of them.
What are the
My dog just died.
Ooh, wrong one. I meant to do. Aww. Slow clap.
I feel like the best laugh track was Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah.
I got nothing to say about that. I just think that's true. Go listen to it.
I also have nothing to say about that because I haven't seen Everyone Loves Raymond since I was single-digit age.
Yeah, that show was really mediocre, huh?
Yeah, it was. The reason I watched so much of it was because there were 3 channels at my grandmother's place where I lived for like a bunch of years. And it was like that or like Law and Order, Criminal Intent.
Didn't they make a spin-off of that
staring
show?
at the wall?
No, I got sick of that too.
But they made a spin-off of that show where Chris Rock played Raymond, right?
It's called Everybody Loves Chris.
That's true.
No, Everybody Hates Chris.
Is it actually a spinoff?
I mean, it's like...
I know that show existed, but...
Well, it's like, what if that show, but instead of a mediocre... Is Ray Romano white?
Yeah, well, he's Italian.
Okay, yeah.
So,
So
yes.
mediocre white guy.
Wait, are you white?
Yeah, Italian people are white.
Okay, I mean, now.
White. A lot of white people don't claim. I'm Sicilian, so a lot of Italian people don't even claim me. It's a weird thing, but we're white. We got a slight tan. If you're being like, oh, I don't have privilege because of my slight tan, and I come from the south of the European. Shut the fuck up. You're a white person. Sorry.
You've had white privilege since the 30s.
Yeah, exactly. There was a time where Italian Americans had it rough in this country.
And they showcased it on the documentary Everybody Loves Raymond.
And plus, we've got an Italian American in the White House now.
Oh, yeah. And then also an Irish American.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris.
She's all the things.
Italian-American.
She's from South Italy. Oh, my gosh.
No, this is Joe Biden's wife.
Jill Biden.
Jill,
No,
yeah.
I mean,
Kamala Harris?
that's how that
That's
works,
how it
right?
works, right? They're married now?
Yeah, mom and dad.
Listen here, Jack.
The thing is, he claims Irish and he claims fucking German and he claims Italian.
Yeah,
He
'cause
is
he's white.
very white.
That's the white thing to do.
Oh,
That
shit.
man looks like a ghost.
I frequently forget that we have a president now.
That's good. I like it.
It's very freeing, those moments that I live in
It's-
blissful ignorance.
It scares the fuck out of me. Because what is he doing?
I don't know. He's probably watching the news and pretending not to take a nap.
NFTs
He's selling NFTs.
for drugs.
One of my
Come
favorite.
to nomalarkey.io. Enter the no malarkey zone.
Anti-malarkey action. That's one of my favorite memes I've ever seen. But yeah, Joe Biden. Where were we with that?
Joe Biden, yeah. I know Jill Biden, first Italian American in the White House.
weird. I mean, like
Really?
they
Yeah,
never.
That's really true.
They used to not let them in.
Yeah, I don't. There's like barely any Italian Americans in politics. So I mean, like,
legal politics.
yeah.
That's
the Italian mafia is really not.
Nothing anymore.
Not really.
That's
Other
exactly
other
what the
people
Italian
did
would
it
say.
better. They watched the movies and then they were like, "Oh, we can do that, but better."
Yeah.
And they did.
Now it's like Silicon Valley in like New York.
Yeah.
Everything's on the computer now. It's like
Money laundering through NFTs.
NFTs.
They don't even need, because they don't need a gambling den to be a front anymore.
Use NFTs.
NFTs.
Buy NFTs.
okay, so we got a little bit of time left.
We got a lot of time left, if you believe.
We got a little bit of time left. You can hear Robert's poetry by going to YouTube and typing in Robert Torres poetry, but you can also hear them like right now.
Over pandemic, I got really in. We all picked up weird hobbies. One of mine was skincare. So this one kind of makes fun of my hyper focus of watching a bunch of Hyrum, and this is Skinfluencer. My personal skincare journey starts with a blue-eyed twink. No, not that kind of facial. I cringe every time he says aloha, but I let him regale me with tales of niacinamide and hyaluronic acid. I start dreaming of creams, tubes and tubs gleaming on drugstore racks. I compulsively shoplift from disappointing local selections. Yes, that kind of petty. I'm not afraid of aging. I'm keeping myself fresh for LA. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna tear open my chrysalis, tight poured and well oiled, and they'll see me and say, yes, this one is the right kind of shiny, and I'll never work a day job again. I'll grow to resent it. I'll start drinking again now that I don't have a job. I'll keep lifting even though I know everyone is watching. Yes, that kind of blemish. Long-winded apology, dark circles start to show, deep sigh backstage, maybe a bump, but only for the sake of the after party. And this fantasy parties happen again. But really, I'm fine. I'm not driving. I'm staying young. I'm embalmed in retinol and Q10. I've been 26 for years. I jog. I show up to rehearsal on time. I can get it up again. The pills are doing their jobs. I still feel like a hamster, but I can pay the rent and I only cry on camera. But by the time my eye cream dries, it's Portland again. Calling for snow tomorrow. I'll be answering phones. I'll get in trouble for sounding tired. Not that kind of sleep. Petroleum jelly. I read, poem in which Tom York laments being the emperor of a petro state while ignoring the many states which have no oil at all, only cold, cold desert. The interviewer says, wow, that's the strangest syntactical poem I've ever heard. I say, I have plenty of non-syntactical poems. We both laugh. He's taken by my charisma and spreads his hand on the desk, and I know he wishes it were my knee. So anyway, Radiohead. But instead of Creep, they play Astro Creep 2000 by White Zombie. Wind erupts my hair. The sun, perhaps from an open window high above the light grid, glints off the sunglasses I'm wearing to cover the mess of days-old makeup, which they only sort of accomplish because I want to appear busy and cool more than put together. In my heavy metal fantasy, I bite my lip so hard it bleeds, and he licks his lips, and I know he knows I know he wishes it were my blood he was licking. The sound guy is good enough to mix White Zombie back into Radiohead like it was on purpose. I tell him, Tom York is a greedy baby. The light guy can't decide who is the angel and who is the creep until the interviewer leans toward me with teeth bare like a semi-grill, and I'm an insect caught in his light, a Pony Era stick-shift cobra aching to crumple under his wheels. I tell myself it's for the insurance payout, but he knows I want a high-speed, high-visibility impact, and I drag Tom York because I'm jealous he even got one. Thank you.
That's a really good syntactical poem.
Thank you. I have plenty of non-syntactical poems.
Damn, I wish this was your knee.
This is one that's on my Patreon that I keep mentioning because I need to pay rent, y'all. Come on.
Patreon.com/
Gay space communism will win. It's so good. I'm glad I thought of it. Poem from before I ate Taco Bell on a weekly basis. Let us gather together, armed to the teeth with poorly researched epiphanies, and fire straight into the air. We can believe hard enough to change reality. We are God's prototype. Bacteria make constellations of our suburb. If only they knew how boring mythology can be. In our creation story, Monsanto spices cockroach DNA into corn, so it finds its way into every cupboard in America. It rots there until it's formless enough to serve at Taco Bell. Somebody Instagrams their first bite. Somebody reblogs it to win a free chalupa. It's not cool anymore.